leaders on the dais, and friends who come from the far India. Well, I was asked to speak on the impact on India, the emerging geopolitical situation, which is a consequence of unilateral US aggression on Iran. First of all, we'll have to understand the significance of this region. Why should we be concerned about the developments in the West Asia? Of course, we should be concerned about the developments anywhere in the world. And we have a Prime Minister who was capable of even solving Russia-Ukraine war. So when we have such an indomitable Prime Minister who can bring Trump and Putin together, we obviously expect him to play more dynamic role in a region which is so vital for Indian interests. So let me begin to briefly summarize what does the West Asia mean for India. Well, around 1 crore Indians, around 10 million Indians work in this region. So they send money back to India, which we call as foreign remittances, and these foreign remittances are essential to maintain the health of our external sector. Let me recall your attention to the 1991 crisis, when India has to mortgage its gold with the Bank of London. That was a time when India had foreign exchange reserves sufficient to meet only the 15 days of India's import bill. Who saved us? It was the fitters, turners, electricians, workers of the Gulf region, through their foreign remittances back home, saved the prestige of Indian economy. So when this, not more than all these Indian workers working in this region and the foreign remittances, the most significant dimension for the West Asia's importance to India is in terms of our energy security. All of you are aware that India is a heavily import-dependent economy. In 2014, India was importing 77.6% of its total fossil fuel requirements. So out of the total hydrocarbon requirements, India was importing 77.6%. In 12 years, in the area of Atmanirbharta, it has shot up to 88.6%. So around 11% rise thanks to Atmanirbharta. So this is the level of import dependency, and we depend on LPG and other natural gas to the tune of more than 50%. So that is the extent of our dependence on this region. This is our extended neighborhood, and we have a security implications. What happens in the Europe has a very remote security implications, but what happens in the West Asia has much more significant implications for the national security. If you read today's newspapers, we find on the front page, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey entered into a security pact similar to that of NATO. It is essentially called as a mini Islamic NATO, and this alliance, which includes one of our most hostile ever, is based on the Islamic solidarity. So these are the implications of a region which is so vital for India's economic interest, India's national interest, and a foreign policy and diplomatic interest. But what did we really do? Surprisingly, India, which played such a significant role in the past, even when our stature in the global economy was much less, we played a much significant role. We were part of the global conversation in Korean War. We were part of the global decolonization efforts. We were the leaders of the non-aligned movement. We were a strong pivot during the Cold War. Quite unfortunately, India, which ranks among the top 5 economies in the world, which is the fastest growing economy, which is the most populous democracy, under a leader of Vishwaguru, we are today absolutely away from what was happening in the West Asian region. We were completely caught, confused with this entire development. Was India part of the global conversation during the West Asian War, or in its so-called resolution that is taking place? On the contrary, a flawed nation, a failed nation like Pakistan, seemed to be playing the instrumental role in reshaping the West Asian diplomacy. It is absolutely much more astonishing for Indian people. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Is it accidental? But it is certainly not accidental. It is incidental upon Government of India's chosen foreign policy. We have always maintained a fine balance in the competing powers of the West Asia. So we had relations with the United States, we had relations with Israel of late, but we have not abandoned our solidarity with the Palestinian people. We have relations with the Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar and other frontline Gulf nations. And we had historically good relations with Iran. Iran was supporting India in a very critical political situation, political context also. There were times when Ayatollah Ali Khamenei had taken a hostile position. But if you look at in a holistic manner, Iran was relatively a much better ally than many nations to us. But what did we do? We were trying to maintain our relations with the competing powers in the West Asia to insulate Indian interest from what happens in this region. But under the leadership of Narendra Modi, we have completely given up this strategic autonomy, independent foreign policy, and a fine balance between the competing powers in such a vital region. Not only the fine balance, we are not even chosen to stand on behalf of the morality. We are not even chosen to stand for the values which India's foreign policy, which has always all along. We defended territorial integrity. India condemned even killing of Saddam Hussein. India supported the third world's rights. But laying to rest all those pretensions, Government of India has significantly altered India's foreign policy and chose to embrace Israel, that too under the leadership of a chauvinist called Benjamin Netanyahu. Just a few 48 hours before Israel's unilateral aggression on Iran, Prime Minister was so proudly speaking in Israel Parliament. What was the reason? If you have read the writings of some of the prominent columnists, India has completely believed what Netanyahu has said. Two people in the world have believed him. One is Donald Trump, second is Narendra Modi. What did Netanyahu tell them? Netanyahu said that within 3 to 4 days, we will dismantle Iran's Islamic regime. And Dr. Sanjay Baru was a prominent analyst in international relations and a former advisor to the Prime Minister of India. He wrote in one of his columns that even Narendra Modi was briefed about the ensuing aggression, and he was assured by Netanyahu that the Islamic regime will collapse. That's precisely the reason India was silent when Americans attacked a girls' school in Iran, and that was precisely the reason India did not even condole the killing of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. There was an explicit instruction to the diplomats across the world not to sign on the condolence book. And only after a great furor, and late realization that this regime is not going to fall, our Foreign Secretary Vikram Mistry went to Iran embassy and signed on the condolence register. Look at the kind of situation. We have even condemned the killing of Saddam Hussein. We are not here to decide who will rule Iran. We are not a sympathizer or supporter for the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei-led Islamic regime. Certainly, I am sure nobody in this house will endorse a theocracy and authoritarian regimes like Khamenei's. But what remains the fact is we are not here to decide who rules Iran. We are not here to decide whether Trump or Netanyahu or Khamenei will rule Iran. But unfortunately, we have dovetailed our foreign policy with the US-Israeli nexus. And we have even refused to steadfastly defend Palestinians' right to self-determination, right to an independent nation. Surprisingly, at the behest of the US dictators, India as the leader and the chairperson of the BRICS, we have almost diluted this wonderful alliance of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa and other nations. And the recent BRICS envoy meeting concluded without even passing a joint declaration, which is unusual in global settings. The reason is India was averse to strong condemnation of Israel, and India was averse to strong defense of Palestinians' rights. And why did this happen? Does it further Indian interest? If it really furthers India's national interest, there is at least element of justification. Notwithstanding the moral aspects of the stand, it doesn't even further the India's national interest. But still the present dispensation was audacious enough to embrace a pro-Israeli policy at a time when Netanyahu was isolated in the world. The European allies, which were instrumental in formation of a Jewish state on the Arab land, were condemning Netanyahu. Israel's own opposition, barring the far right, were condemning Benjamin Netanyahu. And even the key figures in the Trump administration, including the Vice President J.D. Vance, including some of the US commentators, were strongly condemning Netanyahu. When the world was hating Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi so assiduously relied on Israel's leadership. And this has cost India so dear. That is precisely the reason India was completely shut out of the global conversation on the West Asian war. That is precisely the reason we have given Pakistan an opportunity to cement its position in this very critical region. So my question is today simple. Today Pakistan has entered into an agreement, security pact with Saudi Arabia and Turkey. A nuclear Pakistan, oil with Saudi Arabia, a NATO power like Turkey coming together in a NATO-style agreement. Assuming that tomorrow Pakistan indulges in a terrorist activity, it's not even an assumption, it's not even a speculation. Pakistan has done it in the past and absolutely no Indian will believe that they will not do it in the future. What will happen? Can Modi government continue the Operation Sindhu, which it claims to be doing? What will happen if India attacks Pakistan? What will happen? Will Saudi Arabia and Turkey come to the rescue of Pakistan? If you look at the post-Operation Sindoor foreign diplomacy, Pakistan, a US nexus has strengthened. Pakistan nexus with other Islamic nations have strengthened. Pakistan, Iran were not so great allies, but today Pakistan plays an important role in resolving the West Asian war. Pakistan has become the first contact for American administration to resolve the challenges in the West Asian region. So what will happen to the India's national security when our hostile neighbor is taking so advantage from the situation which India deliberately chose to ignore. We have deliberately, Prime Minister Narendra Modi went all the way to Moscow to tell Putin that this is not the era of war, which has become a global headline. But what prevented Narendra Modi to tell Benjamin Netanyahu that this is not the era of war? It can't, this is not the era of war, it will not apply only to the Eurasia region, it applies even to the Asian region. So the fundamental challenges emerging out of the West Asian war is not just accidental or inevitable. It is a product of a government's short-sighted foreign policy. It is a product of an extension of the political and ideological interest in the domestic politics, extending to the external and foreign policy. Everybody knows what is the common friendship between Netanyahu and Narendra Modi. It is the anti-Muslim rhetoric that binds both the leaders. It is an ideological proximity and affinity of the ruling dispensation that brought India so close to the far-right Netanyahu's regime in Israel. And as a result, this suffered. India suffered due to BJP's promotion of Trump, Modi's promotion of Trump. We have seen what happened in the Kencho Trump, Namaste Trump in Ahmedabad, to Howdy Modi in the Houston. But what did India get in return? India was called a hellhole, India was called a dead economy, India was called a tariff king, and all kinds of nonsense Trump is speaking and the Prime Minister is silent. Because India Prime Minister cannot evade his responsibility because he is one who has said, "Aur ek baar Trump Sarkar." Normally a country will not show interest in the emerging political developments in another nation. But overseas BJP has so actively campaigned for Donald Trump, who is now singing the song, "I love Pakistan." When Modi says, "I love Trump," Trump says, "I love Asim Modi." You can't really understand. When the BJP said, "I love Trump," Trump says, "I love Pakistan." We don't really understand this strange calculus. So this strange calculus is the result of a complete failure in the foreign policy. To serve the US interest, we have joined Quad to encircle China. But what did Quad do? Quad did not even condemn Pakistan during Pahalgam terrorist attacks. India joined hands with America and Japan and Australia to encircle China, with the hope that US will come to our rescue in the event of a confrontation with China. But US refused to come to India's rescue when it is confronting a much feeble adversary like Pakistan. Today we have witnessed this. And we were part of the Middle East Quad along with India, I2U2, India, Israel, United States and United Arab Emirates. But we were out of the global conversation on West Asia. We were champions of the BRICS. Today we have already given up BRICS. Today, thanks to India's leadership, BRICS is at a very defunct stage. When the entire BRICS was talking about de-dollarization, we were not with them. When entire BRICS was condemning Israel, we were not with them. When entire BRICS was fervently defending the Palestinian rights, we were not with them. But what is it we are going to achieve? But when Trump attacked, Prime Minister Modi was seen in Beijing. We have seen the frantic anti-China sentiment that was pervaded in India after Galwan incident. We have seen people throwing away the old TV sets, made in China TV sets from the balconies. But today, post-Galwan, India-China trade has expanded rapidly and our India's trade deficit has increased. And we are even now trying to cozy up to China precisely because Trump is attacking us. So can there be a foreign policy which was so indifferent to India's long-standing foreign policy traditions? Indian foreign policies should be insulated from the domestic politics. But under the present dispensation, foreign policy is completely embedded into the domestic political agenda. We have seen this in the case of Bangladesh. We have seen this in the how did we mess up. We were rather compelled to provide to support Sheikh Hasina. That was rather inevitable. But what did we do? India, when it was trying to rebuild its relations with Bangladesh in the post-Hasina phase, and when Foreign Minister Jaishankar went all the way to Dhaka to pay homage to Begum Khalida Jia, Prime Minister Modi wrote a personal letter to Tariq Rahman. India unnecessarily entered into a confrontation with a neighbor on a simple aspect of a cricketer in a IPL match. Can there be such a flimsy ground to severe relation with a neighbor? What is the, and precisely because it will serve the domestic political agenda. Today, as a result, what is happening in Bangladesh is so unpalatable to India. So deliberately, Prime Minister Modi followed neighborhood diplomacy, invited the leaders of South Asia to his swearing in. Today look at India-Sri Lanka relations, India-Maldives relations. There was an India Out campaign in Maldives. See what is happening in Nepal. Nepal Parliament adopted a border, a Nepal map, which allegedly included Indian territories also. What is the situation between India and China? India, Pakistan, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation is almost defunct. So and the only relations which India has improved is with Taliban regime in Afghanistan. Surprisingly, Taliban regime is friendly to Narendra Modi government. So that is the level of confusion and chaos which we are witnessing in the foreign policy. Under the pressures of the United States, we have reduced our oil import from Iran almost to zero. There was a time when Iranian oil accounted for 10% of India's total oil imports. And it was a very, very favorable trade agreement with India because we were trading in rupees. The moment you pay rupees for the oil which we import from Iran, those rupees Iran has to spend to buy goods and services from India. So, but unfortunately we have given up. We have almost, and this union budget has not allocated a single pie to the Chabahar port. It is essentially again the US dictators. Chabahar port is so vital for Indian interest because by bypassing Pakistan, we can go to even up to Europe. Through Iran, Afghanistan, Central Asia, Russia and to Europe. It is a complete different trade corridor we can build bypassing Pakistan. Such a vital link we have deliberately snapped essentially because the United States imposed sanctions on us. And there was a time when we were listening to the United States and reducing oil import from Russia. Of course, we have again started, but there was a time. So these foreign policies essentially against Indian interest, against the long-held foreign policy traditions of India. Peace-loving people like us, people who oppose hegemony, who oppose unilateral wars, who stand for the world peace, should resist and should expose this blatantly anti-Indian foreign policy of the present dispensation. Thank you very much for patient hearing.